Welcome, everybody, to the sixth episode of Half-Ashed. My name is Craig Schneider. I am your friendly local podcast host, and I'm more than happy to be here tonight with my good buddy Kip. How are you, man?
Hey, you went a little hillbilly there tonight.
Well, it's when in Rome or when speaking to Romans. Oh, well. How are you, man?
Good. It's been a pretty good week for me. I understand you've had a busy day, but I'm glad you're here.
Well, for someone who's not an EMT, I've been in more ambulances and hospitals and nursing homes and things than I'd care to admit today. So I am looking forward to a good night with a good friend and a good cigar to relax a little bit because I need it.
You can't ask for much more than that.
No, everything in the life is going well. It's just taking some detours today, and took a little while to get to the acceptable area. But as of right now, I can kick back and just kick off a darn good show that we got planned tonight. So I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Well, we have a fine cigar, and I am very confident in saying fine cigar, even though this is only the second one I've ever smoked. It is another one of your recommendations, one of your 12 faves, and I feel blessed to have had you be able to send me a couple of these. Tonight's cigar of the week is the Oliva Serie V Maduro from 2012. Is that right?
That is right, and I really enjoy these cigars every year, and they've been making them several years now. I want to say since 2008, somewhere around there. Change it up a little bit each year, but 2011 and 12 were, if not the same, essentially the same, and I really, really dig both of them and created myself a nice little stash of them. So I was happy to share.
Well, I'm very happy you did share. I've never really been a big fan of the Serie V, the standard line. I as much as I like that kind of sweet, spicy flavor that comes from some cigars, that Serie V was just too overwhelmingly cinnamon-like to me, almost that hot cinnamon. Now I started out with I think the Serie V Lanceros. I went through a box with a friend of mine 4 or 5 years ago, 3-4 years ago, something like that, and didn't have the greatest experience with construction, didn't have the greatest experience with flavor lining up with my preference, and so I've tended to not make them one of the cigars that I'll go out and try on a regular basis. And so when I found out tonight was the Maduro version of that, I wasn't exactly thrilled. I just thought, hey, I'll give it another shot. Maybe the Maduro will be a different experience, and holy crap, it is a different experience. But it's like you just added another layer of flavor to what I remember with the standard V, and all of a sudden that other layer just brought the flavor to another. I mean, it just exponentially brought it to another solar system. Holy crap, this flavor is outstanding.
I could not agree more, and I'm exactly in the same boat. I was never a fan of the standard Serie V line. I had a guy hand me one when they first came out, and he said, "You got to try this, but be careful; it'll knock you down. It's just super strong." And I didn't find it that strong, but I didn't find it, that flavorful either. I mean, it is, but it's like you said, that the notes that it does play are it's a pretty narrow range, and so I didn't have any construction issues. I just never really got into them, and never go buy them. But the Maduro version, man, when these things come out, I snatch them up as fast as I can because they are a limited release. They put them out every December. I think 30 to 50,000 sticks each year. The last 2 years have been 50,000, if I'm remembering correctly. And I, like I said, what else can I say? I love them. I create myself a nice pile of them every year.
I don't know why, but the way you phrase that always makes me chuckle. I've created a selection for myself. I've created a pile for myself. It makes it sound so simple that if you like a cigar, just go out and get them for yourself if you possibly can. It's that simple, folks.
Well,
And I guess it is.
this is one that's a limited run, but it's not so limited that you can't find them, and they're not gone so fast that they disappear within 20 minutes like some cigars do. They hang around on the shelf for a while, and you can find them. They're out there.
In fact, I think I mentioned it on last week's show when we were alluding to the fact that this was going to be what we smoked tonight. That I had just been at a shop about a week prior to that, and there was still a box on the shelf that was pretty full. I mean, I think there was well over 12, 15 cigars left in there.
Well, there's only 10 in a box, so that'd be amazing.
Well, then it couldn't have been that. Then it had to have been like 8 or 9 left. I think I took some and thought that they were pretty full. The box was pretty full, so.
Yeah, well, I have a local shop that I frequent quite a bit, and they are an Oliva Lounge, and they get a large supply every year, and they still have a stack of boxes down there, I believe.
Well, I was lucky enough to partake in my first sample of this yesterday to kind of wet my whistle a bit, and felt that it was a sufficient introduction into what the cigar offered, enough so to where I was looking forward to tonight. And 5-10 minutes in or whatever we are to the recording, and I can already tell I'm up for as enjoyable, if not more, of an experience. So this is gonna be a good one.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question. You had mentioned that just very briefly that you thought the 2012 release was pretty much the 2011 or very similar. Does Oliva actually kind of comment about what they're trying to do each year, or is it just kind of a caveat emptor? We might change it, we might not.
Yeah, they don't give a whole lot of details. I am basing this off a couple of things. One, it's the same shape, same size as last year, and it's very much what I remember. And I put into the notes that that this year's may have just the tiniest bit, little more zing to them, or a little more of a burn through the nose on a retrohale, but that very well could be to the fact that I'm smoking the 2011s that have now been sitting around for a year.
It's it certainly sounds plausible. We do have a little bit of an experiment we'll be talking about later on. I don't know exactly what phase, but we'll find the right spot for it, where we might be able to get a little bit more in-depth of a view on how these cigars are working year to year. So I'm excited about that too. Especially excited because now that I know I tend to enjoy the cigar, I might be able to get some enjoyment out of the experience too. But we'll get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, and the first 3 years were bellicoso. I think 2008 was a little bigger than 9 and 10, and then 11 and 12, of course, have been this Toro size.
Mm-hmm.
And I am now out of every year except 2011 and 12, with the exception of the vertical tasting we're lining up with these.
Do you know what wrapper is on this?
Oh, let me check something real quick, and I'll tell you. I'm talking with a cigar in my mouth. It's a San Andreas wrapper.
Is it really?
Yep. And the filler and binder are both just Nicaraguan. That's all I got.
I'll tell you what, I've got a friend of mine who had done some playing with some San Andreas wrappers, and it really can make a difference on a cigar. I didn't know that that's what this was, so knowing that, it kind of lines up with some of the other memories I have with San Andreas on existing blends that I've been familiar with.
Well,
that's interesting.
For years, that was like a secret. Nobody wanted to say they were using San Andreas wrapper.
Yeah.
It was a hidden thing. People didn't talk about it, and now, past couple of years, well, my father in particular has been using it quite a bit. They make Eddie Ortega's Serie D that has a San Andreas wrapper. That Tatuaje Mexican experiment we have coming up, that's a San Andreas wrapper. And now Oliva has this. There probably a dozen have come out in the past year that not only use that leaf but admit to it and feature it. And it's become a marketing point rather than a secret.
and it should be a marketing point. It's a damn flavorful leaf. I I have a guy I know. I won't even call him an acquaintance, but it's a gentleman that I've had some cigars with over the years. Um, it's actually a funny story. Somehow he obtained the trademark to use Don Corleone as a cigar name. Somehow Paramount had let it lapse or had never even trademarked something for the consumables market, and so he obtained it from Paramount. And so he has a cigar that he's marketing under the Don Corleone brand name. So I've met this gentleman through a mutual acquaintance that we both have, and um, uh, have kind of gone through his. Was just lucky enough to kind of go through the blending experiments that he went through with the factory that he was making this cigar or having this cigar made at. And so one of the ways that we tested individual components of the cigar was to put them on blends that we were all familiar with, blends that this factory had made for years. So the factory was GR Tabacos Unidas, which is Guillermo Rico, or what's probably their most popular cigar, the Gran Habano. And so the Gran Habano 3 is traditionally the black label or the Habano. A little bit sweeter, a little bit more typically Nicaraguan. We tried different wrappers on, I think it was a Torpedo actually. They're 6x52, and the San Andreas version on that cigar just absolutely, or on that blend, absolutely transformed the cigar. It was really, really unique, and it ended up being what he used on his final initial production of the cigar, of his Don Corleone. I don't know if he obtained it for the U.S. or if he obtained it for the European Union, but either way, it was really fun to kind of just fall into being a part of that and to really play with what different wrappers can do on a cigar you're familiar with. It was kind of a goofy thing, and it made me a fan of the San Andreas Maduro. So
Yeah, that's a neat thing to be a part of, and maybe DC when it gets the prize pack we gave away last week can kind of do that with those 858s because that's the
yeah.
same filler and binder with 5 different wrappers. And it's kind of neat to notice how much of a difference that wrapper can make.
When I was in where the heck was I? I was in the Dominican 2 years ago, probably just about 2 years ago, maybe a bit more than that. Um, I was there with a good friend of mine, Colin Ganley from Cigar Journal, chief editor of Cigar Journal, and another good friend of mine, Luke. Um, we were lucky enough to have a few factories in Santiago that had agreed to put a wrapper leaf on some cigars that we brought there, that we brought down to the Dominican, so that way we could test out wrapper variation and the impact on a blend. And those cigars happened to be the new Cohiba Bajique. They're the 56s. And so we put a Rosado, a Nicaraguan Maduro, just a plain Connecticut shade grown, and then one other one that I don't recall. So we ended up having 4 of these Bajiques that had come from the same bundle that we just rewrapped in a different cigar, and then a year ago, so the cigars at that point had a year of rest with this new wrapper on it. A year ago, we did a vertical tasting, and we're just blown away by how much cigars with such a similar history, how different they really could be, just because that one single leaf, just a couple grams of the overall product, it was such a huge difference that it allowed that cigar to make. It's really, really unique.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I remember, in years past, hearing people say, well, the wrapper gives X percentage of the flavor you get in a cigar and whatnot. And I don't know that you can even assign that number because it's going to vary by which wrapper it is, but in the least is a very noticeable difference.
Yeah, I think that I think that it's hard to say because it's not just what wrapper leaf it is, it's what the blend is below that wrapper leaf, and it's how large the ring gauge is, what the actual proportion of wrapper leaf to filler and binder is. you know, weight-wise or mass-wise, I'm sure that that has some sort of an impact. You know, if you make a cigar that's blended at a 42 and then a cigar that's blended at a 60, but it's the same cigar, it's just more tobacco with different uh, um, ratios of wrapper leaf to filler, it's obviously going to taste different, but it's really eye-opening too.
Yeah. Um, can you hear me now? I'm sorry to interrupt here, but we had a little bit of a glitch in the video.
No, I'm good. I can definitely hear you.
Okay, cool.
You just sounded like you were in fast forward mode for a bit, but nothing that you really would have noticed, that anyone would have really noticed. So I think we're pretty good to continue on.
But nobody would have noticed unless I interrupt the show to say something like that.
Well, you know, I wasn't going to point that out, but
Yep, but I'm with you on the wrapper, and it doesn't matter how hard you try to reblend or rebalance a blend and try to get the numbers to be something similar. It is going to be a little different from size to size, or at least I think so.
well, I definitely tend to agree with you there, and with this cigar, it's definitely just yet another example of how an interesting wrapper leaf can make a cigar that you may not like become a cigar that you love. So um, I'm really enjoying this. I find it interesting that I'm reading through your notes here as we you know, I've been talking a bit, and I find it very interesting that you say lots of coffee flavor. I don't really get much coffee out of this. I get a ton of chocolate and cocoa, and definitely that sweet earthiness. But in that first example I had yesterday, and so far in this one, I'm not really getting a lot of coffee, which is unique. I would have expected that from a Maduro.
Yeah, and well, I do typically. I mean, you see in the notes there, I remarked about dark chocolate and the sweet earthiness as well. But I do. I don't know. I get more of a heavily sweetened coffee, like you might get in Miami, like a Cuban coffee or whatnot.
Yeah, I definitely get that sweetness to it. It mm, I don't know what way to describe it, but it reminds me a lot of like a sweet cedar. You know, like a sweet cedar aroma, that fresh wood aroma. That's not super deep like a rich hardwood like an oak or something, but um, that sweetness to me tends to kind of overlap with a woodiness that I get out of the aroma of the cigar, and then the flavor just has a lot of that kind of dusty cocoa flavor, being just a bit sharp, but not sharp as in painful or unrefined, but sharp as in kind of that crispness that is almost a refreshing sharpness to the kind of deep dark flavors that are also in the cigar because it's just a natural sweet Maduro. I like it a lot. This is it's been a good opening to a cigar. A lot of flavors I expect, and then maybe even looking at them in a way that I wasn't expecting. So, it's pretty
Yeah,
enjoyable.
and I made a note there too that this cigar to me is really easily influenced, or it's easy to change how your taste buds and your olfactory sense picks up the smoke from the cigar just by varying how much fresh air you mix in with the smoke when you take a draw from it.
Don't you
And
love that?
I do, and I
Oh,
constantly do that with just about every cigar I smoke, just to see what happens. And this one to me is easy to change what it tastes like to you just from puff to puff by mixing that up a little bit.
oh man, I love cigars that you can take, you know, like a tiny little puff and it tastes different than if you take gobs of smoke in your mouth, and or do what you say here, just kind of play with that influence of how you're metering that fresh air around. Man, I love doing that because it's, you know, whatever you like out of the cigar, you can make that smoking experience cater to how you enjoy it, you know? It's so fun to be able to do that. I
Absolutely.
recommend people play around with that too. It's not something that, it wasn't something that I naturally did. Someone had to mention, hey, you should give that a try. And I love doing it after that.
Yeah, well, I historically did that a lot with pipe tobaccos. And then when I got a
Mm.
little more into cigars, I could not retrohale a cigar to save my life, just drawing in smoke and blowing it out my nose. But I noticed that if I mix a little fresh air in with it, just taking a draw, just pull a little in the corner of your mouth and just to dilute it a little bit. And to me, it makes the flavors much clearer.
Yeah, I've said that and similar thing to that in the past. I wholeheartedly agree with you. It, a lot of times when I have a ton of smoke in my mouth, it's overwhelming. You know, if I have just a little bit, I'm able to concentrate on the individual parts and pick it out. I mean, with so much in there, I can't like segregate the different flavors in my brain to recognize them. And it's almost wasted. You know, like I can't get everything out of the cigar that it has to give. So,
Yeah, it gets very muddled. The
mm,
flavor does, and it's like mixing a lot of colors together on the page.
yeah,
You lose the definition, and you just get a big wad of
blob.
neutral gray or black. And or some cigars, if you try to do that without the dilution from the air, then it's going to be so overwhelming it'll just burn your sinuses out.
hmm This is it's I won't say with educated reasoning that there's been a lot of thought put behind this cigar, but I think that what they've done or what they've resulted in here is uh, no matter why they came to this conclusion, they've come up with a cigar that's um, it's pretty suave. You can smoke it fast. You can smoke it like a normal Maduro and just enjoy it for what it's worth. Blah blah blah. $8 cigar. Boom, done. And it's good. It's going to give you the enjoyment if you're someone the enjoyment you want if you're someone who likes Maduros. Or you can break it down and really get into these little nuances and realize that there's a ton of complexity. It presents those normal Maduro flavors in a little bit of a different way. It's not overly strong, but it's not going to bore anyone. It it's got a lot to it. A hell of a long finish, really great flavors to it. So far, good construction. A lot of times with the Maduro, you can get a little bit thicker leaf. Maybe it doesn't burn as well. I'm having a great burn now, great draw. So I don't know. I think they've got a little gem that might be overlooked by some people.
Yeah, and as far as I know, this there are no plans to ever expand this into a regular production item. I think it's one of those things, and I try not to ever use this phrase, but I'm going to do it. It is what it is. They have the leaf to do it, and they put out a small batch of these every year, and they quickly sell, and that's just what they do with it.
Hmm. I know. I visited the Oliva factory a number of years back, and I don't think that it's any secret or anything they try to hide, but um, it's not one of the more advanced or organized factories I've ever been in. It kind of looked like you were in a factory in a third world country. Um, and for anything to come out of that has kind of this tone of I keep wanting to say like higher education. Like the cigar is just it's just debonair. You know, it's unexpected to me, and I've mentioned it before. I'm sure I love it when something kind of knocks me sideways, and I'm absolutely surprised by it. I love that sense of being outsmarted by something, or when a cigar can say, "Hey, I'm not what you thought I was going to be. I am so much better." Love that, and this cigar does it for me so far.
Yeah, that kind of thing keeps you on your toes, makes you pay a little more attention.
Yeah, yeah, and I like when I underestimate something and it comes in and says, "Hey, what are you doing? Don't underestimate me. I'm really I'm something special here."
It's much better than overestimating something and being disappointed.
Well, I also like being humbled. I feel like I need to be humbled every once in a while. So I'm glad to be with this smoke. Well, shall we?
You're very proud of your humility.
I'm very proud of being an a-hole sometimes. Shall we move into news a bit here, man?
Sure. We got actually several news items, a little more than I expected for this time of year again. Um, uh, First up on our list here was the Federal Cigar, which is a cigar shop or a small chain up in New England. I believe they're in New Hampshire. Sent out a press release this week that they have it's their 92nd anniversary, and they're celebrating this weekend. And they've launched. I guess you can't call it a launch. It's a release of a special cigar from my father. And normally for their anniversaries, they go all out, and they will have a number of special releases from some big manufacturers. Fuente's done one for them, I know. And this the my father Special F for Federal. That's the name of the shop up there. It's going to be available at their shop in the store only this weekend, but afterward, whatever they have left, they'll sell over the phone, maybe even at their website. I think that's federalcigar.com. One size, it's 5.5 by 46 Corona Gorda, and it's one batch, and 200 boxes of 15, and once those are gone, they're gone. And I would say a lot of people have smoked the Special S, or the S Special. That's an event cigar from my father, and this one is built off of that blend with some changes, but they weren't, in their press release, they weren't really forthcoming with what those changes were. They just said they've been asked by the Garcia family to kind of keep that quiet for the time being anyway.
Interesting. I saw that release had come out Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
It really started circulating. It may have been out prior to that, and had opened that, saved a copy, or downloaded, saved a copy, and then not read it. So thanks for the education. I was interested in it anyways.
Yeah, and they also, I believe EP Carrillo has done a special cigar for them for their anniversary this year, and I actually have one of those lined up. I only have one, but I'm going to smoke it and let you know how it was. It's a variation, or a kind of a Lonsdale-ish size of the 2012 Short Run, which is similar to the New Wave Connecticut that they did.
I also think that Tatuaje did release 2 years ago for them for their 90th, if I recall correctly.
There is a very good chance of it. Like I said, they go all out and really get some big names to make some good cigars for them for their anniversaries.
I think I may have one of those Federal release tats. I was looking through a lot of my father's stuff. I've got a sealed Tupperware box with my singles and random tat and my father's stuff, and I think I came across one of those when I was going through and picking out the cigars for my contest winnings here that we'll get into a little bit later on, which, yes, we do have a winner, folks. Got some good stuff to go along with that I'm looking forward to giving away later on the show.
Cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
It was. I don't even know yet.
I didn't actually put it in my notes. I've got it on my old school yellow notepad. Like a real radio man, I carry my yellow notepad with me.
I didn't realize somebody your age remembered what paper was for.
Papers for a number of different things, most of which is making my desk look busy and cluttered at work, so my boss thinks that I'm working. That's all right. Well, we got a couple legislative notes on here too. There's one specifically out of Arkansas. It's a legislative proposal to remove exemptions for cigar bars, lounges, shops, and outdoor restaurants from existing smoking ban. Put out by Representative John Walker. CRA issued an action alert, which you mentioned linking to in the show summary that you're going to put out, and I know that I received that. I believe that this is the action alert that I received earlier in the week as well. So I know that the word has been raised a bit on this, and man, we gotta fight this sort of an exemption. It just seems ludicrous to stop someone from being able to enjoy a cigar at a cigar bar or a lounge or a shop. I mean, come on. It's just, I don't get the point. Why would someone go in there if they didn't want to be exposed to cigar smoke? So why is it that we should stop them from that?
Yeah, and I put two items in there. There were actually several news items that the number of bans and anti-smoking legislation around the country right now is just snowballing. But the two I put in were Arkansas and Florida, and because these were ones that really jumped out. And the one you're talking about right now in Arkansas, I don't know how many folks we have listening in Arkansas. I know we have quite a few in Florida, but both of these are bad news for cigar smokers. And the one up there, like you mentioned, is it takes the existing ban that's already in place and pulls out the exemptions. And the exemptions right now are if you own a cigar shop or a cigar bar or an outdoor restaurant with a smoking section or whatnot, it pulls all that out and would disallow smoking in all of those places as well. And it's just beyond me how you want to ban smoking in a cigar shop. And the state of Washington did that a couple of years ago, and I don't know if Arkansas has this in mind, but Washington went back and took that part of the ban out and will allow smoking in a cigar shop, but they have to pay an outrageous fee every year for the privilege. And I want to say it was $11,000 or $13,000 a year the cigar shop has to pay
Wow.
to allow smoking in their establishment.
Well, what I would consider my preferred B&M that I go to, it's a ways from my home, but I try to certainly make it over there every month or two. It's called Burning Leaf. It's in it's a suburb of Chicago where it's at. And I just found out 2-3 weeks ago that they, through some error, and I don't even claim to understand exactly what would have prompted this to go through, but they're moving their space, they're moving their shop to another location, and somehow, some way, something happened with their lease, which they signed, which later allowed their landlord or someone in a position of power to demand that at this new location they could no longer smoke. So a shop that's been open for at least for about 5 years with a spectacular private lounge, great place for 40, 50 guys to go for events or just on a Friday night or to watch a game or something. The shop's going to move to a new location and no longer be able to smoke. I can't imagine how their business is going to drop, how much their business is going to drop. And the reason why they're not going to be able to smoke is because Illinois will no longer allow, since I believe the 2009 ban in Illinois will no longer allow smoking at buildings that are not freestanding. If you open a new business, it has to be a freestanding building for you to get smoking, even if it's a cigar store. Yeah. And it's just, that's ridiculous.
And these kind of bans are just a death knell for brick and mortar cigar shops. I mean, the really nice thing about a shop or a lounge is the facilities. I mean, you go there to hang out with some folks and have a cigar, and they can no longer offer that. So, you know, the purchasing or the average consumer will normally swing entirely to online purchases after that. And of course, they're working on cutting that out as well.
Yeah, well, there's going to have to be some clever workarounds that we work around. But man, I was heartbroken to hear that Burning Leaf is going to have to go through a bit of a change here coming up real soon, and hope that this legislative announcement for Arkansas and also for Florida is not a sign of the times and a showing of what's to come. We need to use the CRA to fight against legislation like this because it's only going to get worse, and we need a voice for all of us.
Yeah.
Really do.
And if I can jump on into the Florida one just for a second, this one it didn't really come out of nowhere. It's kind of been lurking around and talked about, but it suddenly and quickly passed through two Senate committees. This past week, the Senate Health Policy Committee passed it 6-3, which means it goes on to the next stage and is well on its way to becoming law. And the House is considering a similar bill, House Bill 439. And what this is going to do is, we've talked about before, the state of Florida has a smoking ban, but the state, when they wrote that up 10 or so years ago, they reserved the right to control the extent of the ban. And so once challenges were made when local municipalities started putting their own bans in place and it worked up through the courts said, well, the state reserved that right, you can't do it. And this current legislation wants to give that right to local government. The problem with that is what follows from that is the state of Florida. You know, we got a lot of beaches, a lot of parks and whatnot, and this legislation would open the door to have local bans in all public areas, which includes the beaches, the parks, sidewalks on the streets, the boat ramps if you're going fishing, all of that. So, I mean, if you live in Florida and you like to have a cigar on the beach like I do, I recommend you go to Cigar Right's website. You don't even have to belong to CRA to do this. I would encourage you to belong to CRA. but you can go to their site and click on news and info in that top menu bar and scroll down the right to find your state, Florida, for this specifically. Click on the Florida link, and it will open up a page with some of the Florida items, and you just click take action on any of the items, hopefully at least this one in particular, and it will give you all the contact information and some templates and whatnot to go to your local representatives just to let them know, hey, I don't want you to do this.
Well, you mentioned CRA here, and that you don't even need to be a member of CRA to go do this, but if someone would want to become a member, you're an ambassador, right?
I am.
And what is your ambassador number?
My ambassador number is 169.
Oh, I remembered. All right.
And if you use that number or use my name in the referral, we have the ongoing promotion I do through the Cigar Me. Once your membership's processed, in addition to the 2 cigars that CRA will send you when you join, I'll send you a couple as well out of my own personal humidor. Just drop me an email to kip@thecigarme when you join up. And once it processes and I get the word back from our folks that run the show, I'll get those on the way to you. And again, I don't handle or see any of your financial information. That's all taken care of securely through the CRA office. But I'm happy to do that for anybody that wants to join up. And I really, really would encourage you to do so if you like to have a cigar every once in a while. That this organization, unlike some of the ones I've seen in the past, are actually making some headway, getting some legislation pushed around, stopped, and altered to preserve our freedom to do that, to enjoy a cigar.
Well, yeah, no doubt. It's the right way to help fight back against unfair, unjust legislation and to ensure that this passion we all enjoy is able to be continued on in the way that we'd like it to be, in the way that we all deserve it to be. My goodness.
Oh.
Well, as said a couple weeks back, I need to renew my membership, so as you were giving your speech, it had convinced me enough to pull it up on a tab right here. I've went through thecigarme.com/join cigar rights, join-cigar-rights, and I am up there to renew my membership right now. So I will do that when we either take a break or finish up the show tonight. I'll get through all that entering. So thank you for that. It's something that we all need to make sure that we're diligent on.
Yeah, cool. Officer Paul says if he knew all these people were giving away extras for renewing, he wouldn't have done the lifetime membership. If you're a lifetime member, Paul, I will send you a couple of cigars just for being one.
I'll tell you what, Paul. Send us both an email, because I will too. I got cigars that I'm going to be sending out with the contest winning, so I will make it a second package. So Craig at thecigarme.com or Kip at thecigarme.com. Get it to both of us, man. That's awesome. As a matter of fact, I will do that for any lifetime member of CRA. I will. I honestly will. Send me information that can prove to me you're a lifetime member. I want to support this organization, and if that means sending out some cigars of my own, what the hell? If it convinces somebody to do it, or if they've done it because they know it's the right thing, I'd love to be a part of somebody and help somebody out who does that. Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, there have been a number of other organizations over the years that have tried to gather some kind of momentum, but I've really been impressed with CRA. I'm impressed with their professionalism and how they handle themselves and the approach they take, and they've done a good job and are still doing a good job.
And I trust will continue.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, moving on a little bit from the depressing topic, which is the government taking away our right to smoke, we've got some interesting news. One of my, if not my absolute favorite cigar brand is going through some changes, adding some lines, removing some lines, getting rid of some vitolas, running out of tobacco, blah, 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 blah. You name it. I think Jesus Fuego and J Fuego Cigars is going through it right now.
Yeah, they put out a number of releases this week, and to give credit where credit was due, I saw this through a posting that Half Wheel put up. So this is their story. I'm just passing along. They've rebranded the company. Their original parent company name was Tabacos SA. They're now going to be known as J. Fuego Cigar Company, which is not that big a deal. Happens all the time. But the other things are a little bit bigger news. They're adding a line, the Connoisseur. So I'm anxious to see what that's going to be once it makes it to my humidor. They're dropping the Grand Reserva, which we talked about a little earlier before the show started, that they're running out of the wrapper leaf to make that line. They're dropping the 777 Maduro, which you really enjoy and I really didn't. And the last thing really confounded me. They are dropping the Corona and Bellicoso Vitolas in all of their lines, and which just kind of, I don't know the word here, depressing or bothersome to me. The Coronas, that's my bread and butter. I'm a Corona kind of guy.
Yeah, I had shared my extreme displeasure for this because I think my favorite line from J. Fuego, my favorite regular line is the Sangre de Toro, and my favorite size is the Bellicoso. I love that Vitola, and I'm really sad to hear it go. Man, oh man, it's a shame.
Yeah.
I guess you got to do what you got to do, but
yeah, and I don't know the motivation behind this. If I was making a guess or speculating earlier that maybe Jesus Fuego just had a lot of loose ends or little things he wanted to change and thought it better to make one big sweeping change rather than try to do a little here and a little there and hope it all comes out well. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'll fight you tooth and nail about that 777 Maduro not being a great cigar. I love those in the torpedo size. Man, I went through a ton. I think it's a torpedo size. It was not a belly, is to my recollection. Love it, and it's kind of a shame to hear that go. I'm gonna have to stock up.
Yeah, I tried the Coronas, and it just wasn't for me. You know, there's somebody out there for any cigar, but that one just wasn't for me.
Well, somebody's got to be wrong in every argument.
Exactly.
Well, the Grand Reserva is also a great cigar from J. Fuego. I really enjoy that one too. And you know, they're all good. I love everything that Jesus Fuego's got his hands in. I'm on their website right now and noticed that he's got a unique comment on here under their products. He has a house cigar for Casa Fuego. I didn't know that he had a store, or is it just a coincidence that the Casa Fuego has the name Fuego and it's not actually his family store? Do you know anything about that?
I don't. I'm not familiar with Casa Fuego. I mean, it kind of would make sense as a cigar shop name either way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know if you know. I don't know. There's a million possibilities. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if it is his. Maybe I'll reach out and touch somebody and try to find that information out.
Yeah, you mentioned before you've got to spend a little bit of time with him in the past, right?
Yeah, I have. Not that I claim to be any great friend of his or anything like that, but he's a truly exceptional guy and makes exceptional cigars, and I've spent a little bit of time with him, so maybe I'll drop him a line, see if I can find out any answers about this. Maybe even just get a little bit more information behind or beyond just you know, running out of wrapper leaf for certain cigars and dropping whole lines in total. I might be able to get a little bit background, so that'll be fun to check out.
Yeah, and it's not just that he's simply trimming things down. He is putting out some new stuff as well. The Connoisseur especially. And now, what was the one you said you smoked a couple of weeks ago?
I thought it was the Family Reserve or Limited. No, I know it wasn't Liberty Reserve. I think it was Family Reserve.
Edición de Familia.
Yes, thank you. Edición de Familia. That I tended to stock up on a number of different Vitolas of those and gave them a try and enjoyed that cigar a lot. But that's a new one. It just came out the end of last year, so I don't think that's going anywhere and anytime soon. It's going to be here for the long run. I
understand that the new one, the 2013, will be the same, or at least mostly the same as last year.
Well, I'm just fine with that, man. Let me tell you.
And he also announced he's going to have a contest in April, and the grand prize is going to be a 3-day fishing trip with him in either the Bahamas or the Florida Keys.
Oh my gosh.
That'll be
Boy,
cool.
I'm such a fanboy. I might even just enter that. And I've never done saltwater fishing, so that might be a pretty darn good time too.
And I think the if I'm remembering right, and my memory is terrible, but I think the deal was they're gonna pick a number because all the Edición de Familia boxes are numbered, and the person that ends up with that numbered box is going to be the winner.
That's although that's getting into sticky territory because isn't that the no purchase necessary thing that got Pete Johnson into trouble with the first Monster releases?
I don't know.
Oh, somebody might need to remind me of what that specific was. I'm pretty sure that the Monster cartoons that came in one of the coffins for the Monster release was what got Pete Johnson into trouble. What started all the Monster. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it started all the Monster BS legal stuff that went down a few years back.
Huh.
Yeah. Somebody will know more than me about that one. That's the benefit of having a large audience. You're always surrounded by smarter people than yourself.
I don't know how large it is, but they are well informed.
Well, no doubt, and willing to write letters, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I see Cigar Coop is in the chat room tonight, and our next news item, I kind of dug a little more after seeing it, but I saw he put something up about it's a little more a little snippet of news from Sam Lucia, who we talked about a few weeks ago. That and I'm jumping on you. I hope you didn't have too much more to say about Jesus Fuego.
No. Anything more I say about Jesus Fuego is going to start moving into awkward territory because I like the guy so much. So you got nothing to worry about for changing the subject there.
Okay. Well, I guess Brian McGee, who's a Toronto rep, if I remember right, he's out in the Southwest, or it was mid-Southwest, somewhere out there, tweeted an Instagram picture that had a little emblem that said "Smoke Lucia Tobacco," and I don't know if Coop directly asked him this, but he asked him, what the story is, and Toronto is going to be his distributor, which was the original plan when he tried to launch this company a couple of years ago, and that a little further investigation said they're shooting for an April release, but that's not set in stone yet. So
yeah, I'd think we got to be hearing some real news real fast here if it's going to be an April release.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're right on the doorstep. April's a couple of weeks away. Of course, I don't know whatever happened to the original cigars that were made. Are they still sitting around somewhere?
Oh, I would imagine they didn't throw them out, Kip.
Well, I mean, did they end up going somewhere else to be sold under a different mark?
I suppose anything's possible, but I'd imagine that, if you got a name in the industry and you've got cigars that are ready to be released that you're trying to market, or at least a blend you've created and tobacco you've allocated, that it's only going to benefit you if you get a little bit of time on those things so they can mellow out and become better all-around smoke.
Yes, if you have the capital to finance the holding costs.
Well, that's certainly true. I would imagine a company like Toronto, who was originally paired with him on this kind of reboot, would be understanding and willing to participate in something like that, knowing they'd share some benefit as well. But
yeah,
just my own speculation.
I'm glad to see this kind of working out, and some of the, I guess the ugliness from 2 years ago kind of dissipating now. They seem to have worked something out that's agreeable to Sam and Oliva as well. So that's good to see.
Yeah, I certainly hope that it's not shaping up to erupt here pretty soon, but it doesn't appear like that's going to be the case. This has certainly been speculated for long enough, and some releases have come out to the point where I think we'd have heard something was going to go down if it really was yet.
Yeah, and Will just posted in the chat room that that was the comment from Brian on Twitter. But his feeling is the cigars, at least some quantity, were produced for IPCPR in 2011. So, just guessing that with Tarano distributing them, they probably have had them sitting in a warehouse somewhere all this time.
Well, all they got to do is slap a second band that says, limited edition or vintage, and if they follow Rocky's mantra, you can charge a couple dollars more for that.
Oh, come on, man.
I know. That was a low blow. But true. No, just kidding.
Our next item up in the news was from Gary Griffith, and there's a couple of things I wanted to mention from Gary that he posted up today, or I guess actually a couple of days ago initially, and it just kind of amped up a little more today with a little more information. He put up a picture on Facebook, and it was a picture of the dragon, and the new name for this year's Drag release. And I don't know if those of you that may be familiar with Emilio Cigars, he put out the Drag K last year, which I really liked. Of course, I bordering on getting uncomfortable if I start talking about Emilio. Same way with you with Jay Fuego. I dug that cigar a lot, and it was so limited. They only made a small run of 3 different sizes, but it was a fantastic dark, sweet Maduro. But this year's Drag is going to be called, and here we go with the hillbilly speaking Spanish again, but the Cayuquero, I think is how you say that. Name from, I'm going to read you it's very short. In his picture he put up, he says, there's a small town in the far western part of Pinar del Rio, Cuba, called El Cayuco. Some of the locals are known as Cayuqueros, which translates loosely as troublemakers. And one of those problem children is a dear friend of his, and it's in that gentleman's honor that he's announcing this year's Drag Limitado will be a joint effort between Gary and Emilio with Noel Roja, who's the Guayacan guy, and they're going to release these at IPCPR this year in the same quantities and sizes as last year, which it was 3 Vitolas. I think there was I don't know, the Corona is the one I really liked. 3 sizes, 400 boxes of 10, I think, in each size, and that was it. And it's kind of a neat little thing he does with the Drag. It's just like you hear about, but I really believe Gary, he digs around, and when he comes across a little bit of tobacco that he really likes, that there's not enough to do a whole ton of it, he'll come up with a blend to feature that tobacco, and knowing that there's going to be a limited quantity of it, and it's a one-shot deal. He makes them, sells them, and that's it. That's all there are.
I like that. It's real craft cigar making at its finest, and it's fun to be a part of, and it's fun to follow these things as they're coming out, and fun to follow the inspiration and the all the planning that's gone into it. This is one of the cigars that's going to be high on my list of interest for this year's IPCPR, no doubt.
Yeah, if it's anywhere near as good as last year's, I'm all over it. And I know I have a local shop in Tampa, Cigar Castle, carries Emilio, and Sean over at Tranquilo also does, and I'll be hitting them up daily until they get some in.
Sean at Tranquilo was actually where I got my my drags from last year, so I think I've still got 1 or 2 left, actually.
I got a handful of them left. I'm trying to meter them out because I really do like them and know that I don't have any more.
Man, I'm digging this Oliva. I know it's kind of an ongoing theme of what I've talked about with this smoke already, but it challenges me. It's kind of on the threshold of what I'm comfortable with, strength as well as body and finish, and it's just kind of cool to just have a companion here that's just urging me to, hey, I'm bringing my A game. Are you?
Yeah, exactly. So and that's one of the things I really like about this cigar is it has that strength that is on. It's a heavy end of medium, lightly full, but it'll sneak up on you if you're not careful. But it's very comfortable. It's not overwhelming or overpowering, and that that zing that we talk about with Nicaraguan tobacco is really tempered by the sweetness, and I love this cigar. And I wrote a review up last year, actually over a year ago now, for the 2011s, and at the time I was so frustrated because my old piece of crap Jeep was mysteriously not wanting to start for me, and I just gave up on it and sat down and had this cigar and just fell in love.
See, that's one of those moments exactly like what I'm having today. Just the end of a 15, 16-hour day of everything that could have been cruddy went cruddy, and you sit back with this cigar and you go, oh my gosh, okay, this is what I needed today. Things aren't so terrible.
Yep,
Awful nice companion.
exactly. And it's not extremely bold in the changes from the flavor. You're talking about the complexity, but it's a very subtle kind of complexity that
Mm-hmm.
you just stick it in your mouth and take off to do something else, you're going to miss it. It's one you can really sit and just enjoy the cigar, and but you got to pay attention to get the most out of it.
I'm noticing that in your summary of the other cigars that you've had this week, you use rather colorful language to discuss how many of these V's you've had. And I quote from my illustrious co-host, Kip Fisher, a metric buttload of this week's cigars of the week. I stocked up, and I put a dent in that stock this week. I love it. That's a great way to tell me what you were smoking. I love that, man. That's great. See, and that's the kind of thing to the listeners. If you haven't checked out thecigarme.com to check out Kip's reviews, I mentioned it when we started the show, and I'll say it again. When we started the show a month or two ago, and I'll say it again. I absolutely love your style of writing. One sentence, and it's just so eloquent and goofy, and it's exactly who you are. It's a redneck and a silk coat is what your reviews are. I love it.
I think I'm going to make that the tagline for the website now. Redneck in a silk coat.
Uh,
I'm okay with that.
it's not too bad. You know what you are? You're the personification of a mullet.
Oh, come on.
Party in the front, all business. Party in the back, all business in the front. Oh, I love it. No, I'm just teasing. You know that. I hope I didn't offend.
No, not at all. I will wear that all day long.
Perfect. The silk coat you're talking about?
Sure, yeah.
Well, I haven't been utterly blessed with free time this week, but I have been able to enjoy a cigar that I kind of forced myself to go back to. I haven't really been craving a ton of individual sticks the past 5-6 days, or types of flavors, so I just kind of reached in and dug deep and came out with an old Ambos Mundos Robusto that I smoked last weekend driving around a bunch, and it's a good little smoke, man. It's not certainly not a strong cigar, certainly not a full-bodied cigar, but great, sweet, citrusy Nicaraguan flavors that you can really use as an example to me of what a mild cigar can bring to the table flavor-wise. You can be a big old crazy gruff guy and love a cigar that's mild, and something like an Ambos Mundos can really illustrate how great flavor doesn't have to come with great nicotine kicks. Love these sticks. Really good.
And that's one of the more economical entries into Tatuajes as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say this one was from one of the 3-packs that I think it was just when Pete was coming out with the La Verte line, the first 2008 or 2009 release, whenever that was. When he was doing shows around that time, he'd come up with a 3-pack, and it was a La Verte, a La Riqueza, or La Spirit of the Truth, La Espirito de la Verte, or whatever the French is, I don't know, or Spanish, whatever the heck language that guy was writing in. It was an Ambos, a La Riqueza, and then the Spirit of Truth, and this one had a little bit of age on it, was still packed in the cellophane and the outer wrapper, so it had aged nice and gracefully over those 3 years or so it had been packed up, and it was a heck of a stick. Really enjoyed it.
Just one second, I'm typing away here.
Oh, no problem at all. I'm gonna go deep into the humidor and find some other ones of those too. I know I've got a few others. They're worth it. Check it out, and you're not gonna break the bank. $5-6 at most for a large one of those Ambos, and I think you'll enjoy them.
Yeah, I would agree. I haven't had one in quite some time, but my memory says I like them. And I can say that just because I can pretty much say that for anything else with the word Tatawahi stuck on it.
Yeah, Pete's got a good palate, and I'll I'll coin the time frame of the golden age of Tatuaje at probably 2009 or so, and this was right out plumb out of the middle of that phase, I think, when I got this cigar. So it was a mighty good experience.
Cool. Well, let's see what I got. A few notes on there, a few things I had this week. I pulled out a 2011 Camacho Liberty. I don't get a lot of those. I get one or two every year, mostly out of habit now. I've been picking those up since 2005, and I can't stop for whatever reason. And I just feel like I'd be missing something if I skipped a year. You know, they're not inexpensive cigars at all, but I always get up at least one or two to try. And it was a very good cigar, but at the same time, for $14, I can get 2 to 4 other cigars that are really good as well. And so I'm kind of sitting where I've been sitting with those for a long time. I'll still get one or two every year, but I would never go plunk down the cash to buy a box of them to hang on to for a year or more. What else?
I gotta admit, that's kind of what I'm like with most Camachos. I don't find them to be bad cigars. I just don't find them to be worth the price to my palate in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and honestly, that's where I was with Room 101 when they first come out. But the last is the Namakubi Tiburon we talked about last week, and the Daruma. The Daruma, man, that was a phenomenal cigar. I think Camacho makes those for Room 101, but I think every time they put a new cigar out, they're just getting better, doing a better job producing a better cigar every time.
So, educate me here a little bit. Camacho has a partnership with Davidoff, correct?
Yeah.
And Room 101 has a partnership with Camacho, or they're manufactured by Camacho in Jalapa.
Yeah.
No, it's in Danlí.
Danlí, yeah.
Yeah, Danlí. Is it possible that these Room 101s are using tobacco that isn't just strictly Camacho tobacco? I mean, I don't know all the parent companies, but has the tobacco available to Camachos severely expanded or extremely expanded in the past few years? You know anything about that?
I can't answer that, but I don't know that I would say that's the case without verifying it, just because I don't think the Camachos have changed all that much. I don't know that they would make use of whatever new tobaccos or better tobaccos they were able to get for Room 101 and not do it for themselves.
That's interesting. I wonder what the reasoning is. I wonder if it's just as simple as Matt Booth all of a sudden has kind of hit his stride a little bit.
I think that's at least part of it, and he's gotten more or deeper into the cigar world. Cigar Coop just said the Room 101 Connecticut uses a wrapper from Davidoff.
Yeah, there you go.
And he says Matt Booth told him that. Bro.
Well, it's always nice to have those smarter listeners than you who are in the chat room. So thanks, Will.
Yeah, my praise of Cigar Coop's blog is not unfounded. I definitely recommend check him out. And he has started putting out a weekly update on Saturdays that's just phenomenal. I don't know what happened, but he's kicked it into high gear and really putting out some amazing works lately, some great articles.
My man, there you go.
And that's his website is cigar-coop.com.
Well, can I catch you off guard here since you just listed a website and ask you a little bit about your own?
Okay.
Has anything occurred with the perhaps possible maybe acquisition of another website for you?
No, that doesn't take place until next week.
Oh, well, never mind. Well, then we can update everybody next week, hopefully.
Yeah, with some news or no news.
Well, hopefully we can update them with some news. Otherwise, I'll feel a little bad for dedicating a segment to nothing.
Yeah, 5 minutes of dead air, that always goes over well.
But it's got to be better than some of the stuff we put out in the first or second show.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, that's all
third, fourth, or fifth, and looks like sixth.
right. Well, I want you to just keep going with these other smokes you've had this week. I want to talk more about your La Tradición Cubana you got on here, and then of course the Ed for Zion, and just get into them. You're wetting my whistle, and I already got a dry palate, so it's helping.
Okay, well, the La Tradición Cubana, Luis Sanchez down in Miami makes those cigars at his factory in the Dominican. And last week we talked a little bit about it because after we had talked about, what for those of you that don't know, Craig and I did not know each other very well at all before this show. I kind of creeped him out and told him I knew him a little better than he knew me.
That is the truth. He's just like, oh no, by the way, I feel like I know you a little bit because I've been listening to you for years, so hope that doesn't creep you out. It kind of did at first.
Yeah, it is what it is again.
Yeah.
But as we kind of pick up a little more information on each other and what we like, and I thought that would be a cigar that is probably in that range of flavors that you talked about liking last week. So I went back and had one this week, actually a couple of them, and man, it is a great cigar. It's not especially strong. It's a fairly mild cigar. It's his standard line, La Tradición Cubana, and the Corona size is a little longer than most Coronas. Not quite a Lonsdale, but just a little bigger, a little longer. Maybe, I don't know, 6x44, maybe a little bit longer than that even. Makes a wonderful cigar in the morning if you find yourself with the morning and a cup of coffee and nothing to do for an hour and a half. Just one of the very best mild to medium cigars out there to me. Very, that sweet and sour kind of interplay we talked about with some of the cigars that you prefer last week. And it just really dances all over that profile. And I love them. And inexpensive to boot. You can get them for $3 and change if you're buying by the box. Seems like it's right around that, 3 something, less than $4 a cigar.
I'll attack your comment about an early morning smoke. I think that my favorite time to have a mild cigar or something that is just kind of soothing is at night when I'm winding down. I've had a long day. Sometimes I kind of like to have the day's activities peak in all the complexity and just craziness that a day can have, and then drop back down and relax with a nice, comforting, easygoing smoke that just brings a ton of flavor to the table. And I really think that one of these La Tradición Cubana Coronas that you're talking about would be just the perfect fit for that. Long day, 11 o'clock at night, a couch, a movie, a hockey game, or just a little relaxation. Man, I think it'd be perfect for me.
And it's one of those cigars I can enjoy any time of day, but I do especially like them in the mornings. But it is a very mild cigar. It's very flavorful, but the strength is down low. And it's so low that you could almost feel like you're off-gassing nicotine when you're smoking that cigar. It's just a comfortable, nice, pleasant cigar. And what else can you ask for?
Well, not much more in my book. I'm going to have to reach back out and find a couple of those.
Yeah, I'll stick a couple in the package I'm sending up that way this week.
Perfect. I don't know why I haven't sent you a package, but I've had 4 or 5 cigars that I've just kind of had locked and loaded. Like, I got to get Kip some of these. And I have to say, one of them is actually going to be one of our cigars of the week later on in the summer. But I had smoked a few of those, and I'm going to have to send them up to you. Some stuff with some good age, non-Cuban stuff with some good age that's just right up your alley. So you talk about this La Tradición being up my alley. I got at least one that's going to knock your socks off, and hopefully 3 or 4 others that you're going to really enjoy too. It'll be fun to trade some smokes with you.
Cool.
All right.
The last one I got on my list there is the Joya de Nicaragua Antonio Dark Corojo, and specifically that little Azarosa size. It's kind of like a short Robusto. Um, it is dark and chocolatey and just has tons of cocoa in it. But at the same time, it's very savory in character. It's one of very few cigars I've ever said was literally mouth-watering. It will produce a salivary reaction in your mouth and is just a fantastic. I call it a comfort smoke. A lot of people find those a little stronger than typical. They don't hit me that way, and I am a total nicotine wimp. Strong cigars just kill me. I just can't handle it. But I love that cigar and went back to it this week. Picked up a few of them, and man, as a matter of fact, I had another one today. And I throw these in there typically because they're cigars I like anyway, but that one, that cigar I come back to regularly and frequently. I can't say much more about it other than you need to try it.
I think that cigar, because I've had a large sampling of those cigars over the years, those dark Corojos, and specifically in that size. Although if it's the size I'm thinking of, it's actually a little bit skinnier than a Robusto. It's like a 44, if I remember right. Correct, or is it a different one?
I'll have to look. I think it's a little different. But,
I seem to remember like a 4x44 that I've just smoked the heck out of in the past of those dark Corojos, and I'm not recalling the exact Vitola, but somewhere around there. And I agree with you. I don't find them to be overly nicotine strong. I find them to be just brimming with hard flavors. You know, like I've talked in the past, the hard and soft flavors. This one is hard flavors, full-bodied, not full nicotine or not heavily strength, but full flavors, full body, hard flavors, and with an incredibly long finish. This Oliva V, I woke up this morning still tasting the cigar, and I brushed my teeth last night too. I mean, it's not like I just went to bed, with a petri dish in my tongue. Those dark Corojos, same thing, man. They just stick with you and they come back for more. Really one of those that you walk out of the shop after you smoked one and you can like brush off the dark Corojo smoke that's on your arms. It's so full-bodied with heavy dark finish, long.
The one I'm talking about, the Azarosa, is 4.5 by 52. But I think they had one, maybe they call a Poderoso or something like that was a narrower cigar.
Yeah, I'll have to. Maybe I've got the empty box still floating around, but I swear I had some smallers of the dark Corojos.
Yeah, I know they do make a thinner cigar. I just don't recall what the name of that Vitola is.
Good smoke. I love when you go through your long lists like this. It makes me go, oh yeah, I forgot about all those. Now I'm gonna have to go out and buy more Hoya de Nicaraguas. Thanks, Kip.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, yep, I know. Well, and I imagine all our listeners appreciate it too. That's probably why they listen to us, because they just hear all these things that you remind them that they need to go out and get.
It's my job. It's what I do. Nobody pays me for it, though.
If you'd like to, I'm sure he'll take your money, though.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
we did get a couple other notes from those listeners who I am sure appreciate all this work you're putting in here. First one from a gentleman I've been corresponding with a bunch this week, actually. And I hope I don't murder his name, but Araya Tesfamariam, perhaps. He brings up kind of an interesting comment that I think will make for a good conversation here tonight. He says there seems to be a new boutique cigar line out every few months. I've seen 5 new brands in 3 different shops during my travels recently. Are there too many? Can the market handle this expansion? There is only so much quality tobacco to go around, and I understand Araya's fears. I've had them myself, but less afraid of what he's thinking and more just assuming that we're going to have a lot of overlap, or 2 people who essentially put out a cigar completely independent of each other that are so similar in character. I think we'll run into that more, but I don't think that we're going to have a problem of not having enough quality tobacco. at least in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I've said before, I think we're in a cigar making renaissance. I can remember back to the boom in the 90s when there were a gazillion new cigars coming out every month, but two-thirds of them were just not good. They were using their whether it was a shortage of leaf or just a rush to get into the marketplace, and that's really what I would guess to be the case. They were just putting stuff out there and seeing what stuck. But nowadays, man, there's so many good cigars coming out. It just really impresses me, and I love it. I love to try new cigars. And you said before, you're not the guy that goes into a shop and wants to try this, and that. And I'm that guy. I'm the guy that wants to try them all just because there's got to be something better, looking for that holy grail. And, there is only so much quality tobacco out there, but you can always plant more and grow more and come up with new varietals to put into a blend.
Well, and that's the unique thing about these craft cigars or these boutique cigars. We talk about this Oliva V being, I think you said what, approximately 50,000 cigars released this year?
Yes.
That's really not that much tobacco. It's not that many cigars. A lot of these craft cigar makers or boutique guys aren't even making 50,000 a year. I mean, that you think about the production of a large company like General or Altadis or even one of these smaller but well-known and certainly has a lot of faces out there at your average shop. Somebody like Ernie Carrillo. I know that at one time they might have $1 million, $2 million worth of tobacco sitting in their warehouse, just aging, processing, whatever it is. It's just raw leaf that's not even in cigars. They've got that leaf. They're holding onto it until it's ready. So somebody might just go out there, pick up some tobacco, and put it out in a cigar when it's not ready, and that would be a problem. I think what we're finding, though, is that so many people are doing it right. They're looking for quality tobacco, or in somebody like Skip Martin's case, or the Romacraft guys. They have tobacco, they're making cigars with it, and then when they're out of that tobacco, they're doing a different cigar, or they're going to start over, or have integrity with it and do it right, not force the cigar onto the tobacco. They're going to make the cigar dependent on that tobacco. And if it means 30,000 cigars, great. If it means 300,000, great. If it means you make 50 boxes, great.
Exactly, and I think there's more and more people doing what we talked about last week that Skip had done, and his partner Michael Rosales. They bought good tobacco and created cigars from good tobacco, and let everything else work its way out. If you make good cigars, you're going to sell the cigars. If you come up with some pretty packaging and a nice band and a name for it, and then you figure out, I got to find somebody to make a cigar to put in this band, I think that's where people in the past have messed up.
Yeah, I also think that you can't underestimate the power of the market. If you put out a bad cigar, and we've got too many cigars out there that are diluting the quality, something's going to give. And those little guys who are putting out bad cigars, even the big guys who are putting out bad cigars, they're not going to last with those cigars. You're going to see those just sitting on a shelf, not selling, and then they're gone. And somebody's going to kill that line and make another one, make a more productive cigar, productive in the market and productive in the client's opinions. I think that the market will correct itself. And as of right now, we've got enough educated consumers out there, people who are picky, that if we weren't able to sustain what we're doing, we wouldn't sustain it. And right now, we're not heading down some long cliff or long path that's going to lead to a cliff. I think that we're going down a way that's going to be able to continue for quite some time.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. The market is such today that there are so many good cigars out there, and it's so competitive that if you don't put out a good cigar, it's just like you said, it's not going to sell. It's going to sit on the shelf. The retailer is never going to order any more because he's hacked off that he's got to now try and get rid of these things and just get his money back on what he bought to start with. If you just put out a good cigar to begin with, it's going to hang around. You're going to have a demand for it.
Yeah, I think that the years like 1996 and the day of somebody in a factory rolling half banana leaves, half tobacco leaves, and just getting out 50,000 cigars for the highest possible price they can get to just make, whatever, 200 grand, and getting out of the business, or find another tobacco and other banana leaves to do the same sort of thing again under some other floor day so-and-so cigar band, and then coming up with something else. I don't think that we're going to have that. We've got guys who are trying to make a name for themselves and trying to make a career in tobacco, not somebody who's trying to make a buck.
Right, exactly, and I think you'll see some, today the smaller makers, the boutique lines that know they don't have a stage to stick whatever comes down the pike out there and try to sell it. They go the extra mile to make a good product before they ever bring it to market, and so they know from past experience they can't sit back and rest on their laurels once that's happened. Yeah. They're going to have to keep making good cigars, and I think that's part of the reason they have been successful the past 2 years or so in taking some of the market share that traditionally has been held by the bigger companies that maybe haven't been as innovative in what their new releases.
Sounds pretty logical to me.
But I'm also prone to speculating and talking a bunch of crap I don't know anything about.
Thanks for flushing whatever whatever goodwill we had just learned or earned in the eyes of our listeners right on down the toilet there.
I don't claim to have any special insight. I'm just a guy that really likes cigars.
No, it's always good to remind people of that. I mean, we're just two guys sitting in front of a computer sharing an opinion. I think that when we've got hard, serious information, we'll tell you that it's fact, it's the real deal, it's something that you can go to the bank with. And right now we're talking and sharing our opinions why we're not worried, and hopefully you can gain some solace from that.
Yeah, it'll shake out as long as we can prevent ourselves being legislated out of a hobby. The market will take care of itself.
Amen to that. Remember, Ambassador number 169, Kip Fisher. It looks like next note's from Justin Arnold, who sends just a real quick remark here that I'm unfortunately not prepared for, but maybe we can work this in the future. He wanted to know if maybe the two of us, Kip, could post some photos of our personal humidor setups just to kind of show what we've got. I don't know. We could talk about this. Maybe we want to put something up. It might be kind of fun to share where we have our own personal little cigar mecca.
Sure. I don't, like I said, I'm just a guy that really likes cigars. I don't have anything fancy or over the top. I got a couple of desktop humidors and one cabinet and a cooler door that I've created to hold overflow. Nothing fancy at all.
Well, I'd say that I kind of went a little bit of a different direction. I really started acquiring cigars and building up my supply when I had a lot more disposable income, and that roughly translates to before marriage and children. So I've got a cabinet humidor, nothing fancy and absolutely gorgeous, but I have. I would, if I could do it over again, I probably wouldn't buy that cabinet. I don't need the benefits that cabinet brought. It's a full climate-controlled humidity, temperature, and now that I keep it in my basement where it's constantly in the low 60s and very easy to regulate humidity, I don't even have it plugged in anymore to electronically regulate. I use beads, and my temperature is always good. So, you live and learn a little bit, but I certainly can show some shots of mine, I think. Maybe we can get those up on Cigar Me.
Yeah, I'll do the same. Speaking of your basement, I don't have a basement. I'm in Florida. The water table's about 3 inches below the surface. But I've kind of been enjoying the wintertime because temperatures in the 60s, 70s for the most part. I think I said a couple weeks ago the ambient humidity in my house was 67%. So my my beads have been doing nothing, but this past week it's been cold again. We had I think Al Gore owes me a personal apology after this winter. The past 30 days have been terribly cold down here. And I noticed that the ambient humidity was about 40% when it was so cold. And they've been working overtime this week.
Yeah, I've been noticing that my beads have been getting refilled probably every week and a half, 2 weeks. It's been a little bit tougher winter here this year, but certainly nothing like good product with a good diligent eye watching over it can't handle. So.
Yep, exactly.
Well, and then this last note that we've got in the notes, I'll volley on over to you here because, as I said, I didn't see this one before the show notes, so I'll let you kind of lead us off here.
Sure. I've traded a few emails with a gentleman named Enzo Timko this week, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he's actually in the UK. But he sent an email. It just says he's got an idea. How about a segment or a moment in the show where we do an awesome cheap cigar of the week and do a little herf on a cheap recommendation from the audience. You say have a cigar for less than $4 a stick, and because he's found several that he prefers over a lot of more expensive cigars, and he thinks that most everybody would like it since these days everybody's trying to save some money, and that's certainly the case for me. And I'll leave the rest of that for later. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And we mentioned one or a couple last week, those new Tatuaje lines that are coming out, or maybe I guess they're already out. The Trocadero and El Suelo, and those are both fantastic cigars for right around that price range. The El Suelo I think was under $4 a stick, and the Trocadero was right at it, maybe just a smidge over $4. And you can't beat them if you like Tatuajes and you like my father's. You can get those cigars using the same tobacco. It's just a Cuban sandwich kind of cigars, and for the price, I don't think you can beat them. They're outstanding smokes.
Well, I'm I guess lucky, I'll say, to be able to have access to a shop not too terribly far from me that really, really has embraced the idea of the house blend cigar. Normal shop. I mean, they've got everything under the sun, a gorgeous humidor, a beautiful lounge, but they also understand that there's integrity and there's pride in their name, and in their ability to know what a great cigar is. And so they've got dozens and dozens and dozens of house blend options, and all of them. There's not a single one that's more than $4. And these things can be anything up to a double Corona. I mean, serious double Corona is like 54 by 7.5. Not a small cigar for, 4 of them for $15. Quality, long filler. Every bit of it is aged tobacco, properly processed, just unique. They had one that they fermented them and used a slight bit of red wine in the water, and it doesn't give a flavor of a flavored cigar or an aromatic cigar. It just increased the unique complexity in the tobacco. That I had smoked it and I had no idea that it was an influenced or an impacted bit of tobacco. It just brought another depth of complexity. Not that that's something I would ever want to have on hand on an everyday basis, but there's a shop that at least is doing that and branching out and experimenting with tobacco and aging and fermentation that by me, it's unique to be able to go and find and experiment with my own. Shop's called The Cigar Lounge in Schaumburg, Illinois, and it's worth checking out. All those are definitely the right up the alley of what Enzo's talking about here. Those inexpensive cigars that offer a unique, affordable entrance into the market.
Mm-hmm. And we have, I guess I'm fortunate enough down in Ybor and Tampa, there are several small little mom and pop operations that make cigars of all different price ranges. And then there's one in Tarpon Springs who also has a shop here near me. That is Serafin de Cuba is the name of the shop, and Arnold Serafin and his dad, the two of them, and they have a couple of rollers for them, and they make some cigars that are just fantastic, and in that price range for buying by the bundle. And I mean, you just can't beat them. They buy good tobacco from Oliva Tobacco Company, that not the Oliva cigars you buy the other Oliva family that deals in tobacco and sell tobacco to probably every big manufacturer out there. I don't know that I could name one that doesn't buy some part of their tobacco from the Olivas, from that Oliva family. And I mean, they're just good cigars for a good price.
Mm. I now that is something that I do enjoy. House blend cigars oftentimes can be the, oh, here's the, the cigar that I bought for 65 cents that I'm selling for $1.50, and I put my own name on it. That kind of, oh, I guess I need something, so I'll come up with something that's cheap in a throwaway. Um, Other than those, I'll oftentimes look for those unique house blend cigars if it's something that the shopkeep recommends. I think it's an interesting way to tell what the tobacconist is like. Are they somebody who really is interested in a beautiful cigar, and they experiment and they test and they get people's opinions and they want to find it out? Or do they just want to throw something out there to make a couple bucks? It kind of gives you a little bit of an insight into what type of shop you're dealing with, too. So I like trying those sticks out if I can find them at a place.
Yeah, and
Takes it seriously.
That's a mistake that's made pretty regularly by shops that do just what you said. They want to stick their name on a cigar, and they find the absolute cheapest cigar they can find and do it, and end up tarnishing their name.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the sad part is I think too many people just assume that those house cigars are always kind of crummy, and so we as the consumers let the tobacconists get away with just putting out junk that we just chalk up to the norm. Oh, everybody just does that. Oh, we don't need to worry about it. But I think we really should have a different attitude. You put your name on something, it should be the cigar you recommend above all else, not below.
Exactly. Yep. And
So,
I love the Cuenca, and that was one of the things I put in the review when I was writing up about their cigar. That a lot of times a cigar shop just wants to put out a line of cigars, and they'll just make a mistake of finding some manufacturer with an availability of cheap tobacco and throw together some blend, a half-assed blend, so to speak, and put it out there. And I was glad to see they didn't do that. It was a good cigar. It just happens to be their house cigar.
yeah, it's a smart move to me. I mean, it's an integral move, and why wouldn't you do it? If you love cigars and if you love new blends, boy, you got new people walking into your shop every single day. It's a new customer you can sell on what you believe in every single time that door opens. It sounds like a good move, great move to me.
Yeah. And the other part of his email, he says he's also curious about reviews and definitions. For instance, when someone says baking spice, does he mean the graham cracker taste that he likes so much? That he thinks graham cracker has a hint of cinnamon or allspice to it. It's very close to what he calls a s'mores taste, and I think most of us are familiar with what s'mores are. Graham crackers with some marshmallow, maybe a little chocolate. And he says he finds that taste in all of the cigars that he finds that he really enjoys and goes back to over and over. And he doesn't like some of the cigars that are more popular today that have that may be a little harsh or have a dark burnt coffee bean or even an ashtray taste. Even though those are popular, they just don't appeal to him. And he also says he's not familiar or not sure what people mean by wood. He gets a cedar sometimes that's present in some nicer cigars, but I'm looking. Sometimes he describes his very favorite cigars as toasting s'mores over a mesquite fire, where he gets that s'more flavor and a little of the mesquite or cedar. But he's asking. He thinks that he doesn't understand what people mean by wood when they pick wood in a cigar.
That's difficult to describe. I mean, there are times when you just absolutely you get that aroma of chopping wood or cutting wood or sawing a certain type of wood. I've mentioned before on the show that I'll design and build houses for my day job, so I'll regularly be working with red oak or white oak or poplar. In the case of a current project, some hickory, and so I'll be lucky enough to be around those aromas. So I perhaps have a little bit more of a database of what some specific woods actually smell like. Um, but there's also kind of a generic wood flavor that I'll give to describe a very common Nicaraguan flavor that I'll get of from Jalapa. Tobacco that's grown in Jalapa very often will have a very specific hard flavor that reminds me of just a core of woodiness. I don't know what type of wood, and more than anything, it probably is just a recollection of, gee, this just reminds me of a woody flavor. Maybe woodsy flavor is more appropriate rather than a specific type of wood. And if you're looking for that, I know one cigar that really has it in spades is the Gran Habano Corojo number 5. It's the Gran Habano Red. That one has got that Jalapa Corojo woody flavor that you just can't miss. It's kind of the core of that cigar. So seek that one out if you can find it. You can usually find them for just $3 a stick, something like that, $4 a stick. It'd be good to smoke it and kind of get a little bit of an education as to what at least I mean when I say woodiness or woodsiness.
Yeah, and for me to kind of piggyback off that, I have a background in furniture and woodworking as well. I spent the better part of 15 years working in furniture plants, and the company I work for now still has some furniture operations. I'm not in them day to day, but I'm in them regularly, and so each different species of wood has a different aroma. Some of them noticeable and clear, just you can scratch the surface and it just puts that aroma out. Others are a little more subdued or don't have much of an aroma alone, but when you machine them, they all will have a smell and whatever type of wood it is, because you're heating it up as you're cutting it. It's not the same as if you just take a pocket knife and peel off a little sliver. When you are running machinery at high RPMs, it doesn't matter how sharp the knives are, it's still going to create some heat just from the friction. And I get a lot of those flavors that remind me of a specific wood that I can recall from my days in a furniture plant. And then the other thing that influences that for me is I smoke a great number of different cuts of meat, and so I burn a lot of different woods when I do that. And I use oak, hickory, ash, even on a rare occasion, some of the citrus woods, the fruit woods, and alder wood, which is hard to come by. You got to know somebody in the Northwest pretty much to get it. And then on occasion, like last week, I had some apple. I smoked some salmon with apple, and each of those has a very distinct odor that you will occasionally come across in a cigar as well. And so I will throw a flavor into a review that relates to some specific wood just based on that, because it reminds me of something I'm familiar with from my past.
That's yeah, that's a really huge benefit that you have. Such a pardon me, such an ability to recollect specific species of wood. It's just unique. I think that's one of the reasons why people can put a flavor to a cigar, just because they've got experiences with that flavor in their past. It can't hurt. I just last week I found it's actually a wine tasting kit.
Yeah.
And those kits oftentimes will just have concentrated flavor elements that you can just give a little taste to or give a little sniff of, to just kind of build up that catalog in your mind of, hey, this is what oak is, this is what tannins feel like on your tongue, blah blah blah, and it helps to just kind of have that to harken back to when you're doing a review.
It does, and they make those same kind of kits with the intention of them being to train someone's nose for nosing single malts. And they'll come with 200 little vials of 200 different flavors, and it's just to build that memory. When you give a sniff to that, then you can start to kind of imprint that on your memory, and when you find it again in a cigar, it may not be that it's that exact flavor, but it's going to cause your mind to go back to that and create a relationship that you can then use going forth when you're talking about a cigar. And if you throw a handful of flavors out there, what something reminds you of, one of them's going to strike home with somebody else, and they're going to say, "Oh, I know what that is. I get that."
Yeah, it's interesting to me to think about how how I will actually review a cigar, because I can have very specific tastes that all of a sudden I'll get in a cigar and it reminds me of an exact ingredient. And then there will be other times when I'm generalizing. When I'll say citrus in a cigar, most often I don't think of a specific citrus element. Like, oh, that is orange juice, or that is a navel orange. It's not that. It's just how kind of, I don't know, where my brain goes when I'm having that smoke, what it kind of gravitates towards. And then there are other times when I do have very specific elements. This Oliva V, the citrus element in this cigar is absolutely, without question, orange zest. Or the oils, the essential oils in orange rind. A real easy way to kind of get that specific flavor, just take an orange, roll it on a countertop 30 times back and forth, kind of press on it a little bit, squish that orange just the slightest little bit. You'll see the oils in the skin just kind of start to develop a sheen on the outside of that orange, and on your hand you'll get a little bit of those essential oils on your hand, and you can smell specifically what that orange oil is. That flavor exactly I was able to get when I was doing my review yesterday of this Oliva V. That was the specific citrus flavor that I got. Whereas a lot of times it's just more general, something that I'm reminiscing of or reminded of rather than exactly remembering. It's just unique to think that that's how I conduct my reviews. It'd be nice to even be able to get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we were talking about last week when Jose Blanco had said in one of his seminars that we all have the same handful or very few actual flavors we pick up, and sweet and salty, bitter, that kind of thing. But it's the combination of those that trigger some memory and some association with something a little more specific that we can say, oh, well, this reminds me of whatever flavor.
Yeah, yeah. I love this hobby. I really do. I absolutely adore it.
I'm with you.
Well, you got some pretty interesting stuff here for the aspect of what you've been enjoying along with cigars here this past week. You want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, I came across a good deal for those of you that are pipe smokers. Pipesandscigars.com, who we have no relationship with outside of the fact that I have bought from them over the years. They have a man that works for him. His name's Russ Ouellette, who I've never met, never corresponded with, but he is a master blender, and a lot of people crusade under that title and call themselves master blenders in pipe tobacco, but he truly is a master pipe tobacco blender, and he's created a couple dozen blends for them called the Hearth and Home series, and I love just about everything I've tried from them. In particular, the anniversary cake, marble cake, Sunjammer, 10 to Midnight. Those are the ones I like, but there's a lot more. And they have a deal on a sampler from them right now, and you get 6 ounce and a half samples from them for $32, $33. And it is a great way to try 6 different blends from someone is making good blends. He uses quality leaf, and he understands the way these tobaccos interact with each other in a blend, and he works out the proportions really nicely and creates some great blends. But it's pipesandscigars.com. Awesome way to try some tobaccos. You'll pay a little bit more than if you're buying one single blend in bulk, but it's as economical a way to try several different tobaccos as you can find.
Let me ask you an off the wall question. Master blenders for pipes. Um, I understand that blending pipe tobacco is absolutely a different art and a different skill than blending a cigar. But do you think that there's anything that a master blender of loose leaf tobacco um, for pipes could bring to blending a cigar that would have a different outlook than a lot of the typical blenders who create the cigars we love? You think they'd go a different direction with it, or heighten perhaps aroma over something else, or I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
Well, pipe tobacco or a pipe tobacco blend is different than a cigar in a few ways. And one, it's a mixture. It's should be uniform throughout with different proportions of different leaves. And the leaf that's used is has a different process before it ends up in a pipe tobacco blend. It's very different than cigar tobacco, and very, very different flavor profiles, and they interact in different ways. And so I think it's possible that somebody could make that or bridge that gap if they wanted to move into the world of cigar blending, but it's an entirely different process from the time they harvest the tobacco onward. Um, it, it, it's not the same as taking whole leaves and being able to put those leaves together into something that's going to smoke in a cigar and be a good cigar. Um, it's I don't know how to put that into words. It could be done, but I think there would be a really long learning curve in the process.
Well, let's take it more from not a practical application standpoint, but more from a background or a theory. When you're blending pipe tobaccos together, um, obviously the end goal is to have an enjoyable blend. But how do you get there? What makes this gentleman that you deem such a high level of a master blender of pipe tobacco? Why do you classify that? And then those skills that he brings to being a master pipe tobacco blender, how could that influence how a cigar was blended if he did have that ability to do so? Understanding it is completely different. I'm just talking about his goal, or what you seek to get out of a pipe smoking experience that if you bring to cigar smoking could be more unique. You know what I'm saying? Or am I not getting my words out properly?
Um, well, with pipe tobacco, you have a handful of different varietals, different components. And the way those are each processed can be, each of those components can be made in an entirely different way. So rather than having three or four different components that change based on where they're grown, or what country or soil or whatever, the curing process for those is such that it's going to have more of an impact on each leaf. And a pipe tobacco blend, rather than having filler, binder, and wrapper that need to go together, may have 6 or 8 or even more different components that have to balance each other out. And you have to have a goal in mind. You say, I want to create just a straight Virginia blend. It's going to sound simple on the face of it, where you're using just a couple of different Virginias, maybe some burley to back that up. Or a very complex English blend that's going to have more of those components, going to have 6 or 8, and you have to figure out a way to get the 6 or 8 correct components that are going to jive well together, that are going to marry, so they're not going to conflict. Because any old joker can buy blending tobacco and start experimenting, but if you don't have some idea of what goes together well, you're going to have 1,000 different blends before you find one you really like, rather than a handful.
I can understand that. I can follow you with that. I guess maybe where I'm having thought about it a bit more, maybe where I'm intrigued by this would be if the average pipe smoking experience, if some of the benefits of that could be brought to a cigar experience. Not the flavors, but just the different style or thing that the blender looked to achieve. I mean, when I think of pipe smoking, I think so much more of aroma than I do when I think of cigar smoking. And maybe that's just my own preference or opinion, but to me, I'd be curious if that different outlook when creating that pipe blend, if you could just take that mindset onto a cigar and come up with something, or look at blending a cigar in a different manner, if you could ultimately come out with a more unique experience. So just be kind of a fun thing to consider. It is for me.
If you're smoking what people typically think of with pipe tobaccos, with the heavily flavored, fruity, apricot, apple, those kind of things, it's
Sure.
absolutely more about aroma. And we call those crowd pleasers because you can smoke those and people don't hack and cough and complain as much. But if you're smoking, like I was talking about, a good solid English blend, it's not going to be a crowd pleaser. It's going to be more akin to a cigar than those others. And I think that's really where the blender's art is. You can take a combination of Burley and Virginia of just about any grade, and if you put enough flavoring onto it and case it enough, it's going to be an aromatic blend. But you don't have as much grace when you're making a more natural, I'm calling it a more natural blend, an English blend where you don't have the benefit of knowing I can use a lesser grade of tobacco, and I have a little more leeway in the blend itself. It doesn't have to be great because I'm going to slather this syrup all over it and make it taste like cherries.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are making those more natural blends, and you guys are going to have to forgive that term because that's a terrible thing to call them, but that's what I'm going with. You have to produce something that the smoker is going to enjoy, and it is much more like a cigar in that respect. It has to be, flavorful in the sense of that that's what that person is looking for. I'm looking for a medium-bodied English blend, a prototypical English, a My Mixture 965, which is a ages-old Dunhill blend that is, in my mind, a standard to use to measure other English blends by. Are they stronger? Do they have a little more or a little less latakia in them? Do they have some other Oriental variety in there that really makes a difference in the flavor? And when you get into those kind of blends, it is much more oriented to flavor than aroma, rather than the aromatics, which are aromatic. They're all about the aroma.
It's man, oh man, it's just sage words from someone with. Every time we talk about pipes, it becomes evident how much more I have to learn.
Well, again, I don't know much about them, but I like them.
Amen to that. Well, we are coming to that time in the show when we've got contests written down here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. We've got a winner for my Tatuaje contest. As I said, I've got a little bit of a gift pack going out here to one of the people who sent in a note over the last week to us, just talking a little bit about the show, giving a recommendation, asking a question, providing insight, comments, whatever it was. And I've also got a few cigars I'm going to add to the pack that I will kind of share here with you guys. But this, again, is in honor of, or I guess I should say just specifically because next month's live show is going to be that Tatuaje Mexican experiment, one of your other recommended cigars that we're going to be reviewing.
Another San Andres wrapped cigar.
Yeah, looking forward to that for that reason, largely. So I, along with the Mexican experiment you'll be sending me to give to our winner of this contest, I've got one of the Tat Black torpedoes from the tube that's been out of the tube. I have probably my favorite Figurado cigar. It's a Tatuaje RC184. This is from an old box that I've got. Really great smokes and a spectacular Salomonas. One of the Tatuaje Boris. This is the original ones, not the re-released ones in cellophane from, I believe, the second year that he did the Monster release. And then also from that second year, I have what's probably my favorite Tat Monster release, the Drac. I know A lot of people were not crazy about those, but I love that cigar. I think it's a um, really unique entry into his Monster series. So those are going to be along. One of each of those is going to be along in this gift pack with a number of other bits of swag. I think there's a hat, one of those Halloween orange bags, and maybe something else in there too. I think I might have a stocking cap too, stickers and all that other jazz, tattoos, blah blah blah, the goofy stuff. So I'll have that package out to our lucky winner here, who just happens to be Michael Stewart. So Michael, congratulations! You were our lucky winner. Um, I hope you enjoy the smokes, the package, and thanks for sending in a note. Thanks for sending in your comments, communicating with both Kip and I a little bit here, and thanks for listening, man. Hope you enjoy this and keep on listening.
Awesome. You know what? I have another cigar I'll throw in there too. Just because it's a monster, still have a few of the Wolfman. I'll stick one of those in the pack when I send it to you.
Perfect. There you go. I'd say my favorite tat is probably just the regular brown line, the Cazadores line, but sorry, I have one box and it's still sealed. I haven't gone out and bought any singles, so that box is staying sealed for a while longer. So I don't think I'm going to break into that one. But these are some other great ones that I've got that that I'm looking forward to sharing. So, and I'd absolutely love it, Michael, uh, if you don't mind, if maybe one of these days after you've had some of these cigars, you could shoot us a review. We'll include it in the show, and who knows, maybe get you on here for a little bit of a guest segment, get you into the hangout, and you can talk a little bit about the review yourself if you want to. But either way, this package will be coming out onto you. If you can send me an email with your address and all your contact information you want me to have, and I'll get it on over.
Cool. So now we're looking next week. Our cigar of the week would be the Flor de las Antillas from my father, which was the cigar of the year last year through Cigar Aficionado. If you put into those lists, it is a departure for my father in my eyes, anyway. It's not the typical profile from them. I really like this cigar. I like their other stuff too, quite a bit, but this one is very different from the prototype my father line that's out there.
Yeah, it's this line was introduced to me by a shop owner who said, "Oh, have you had this?" No, I haven't had it, but I'm not a guy who goes after a lot of the new fancy cigar releases that are out there. He's like, "Well, let me recommend this to you because it's so different from what you'd expect it to be." And that right there, that just hooked me. I'm not looking for the new cigars out there to see if I'm gonna find something that I absolutely love that I'm not having right now. I'm more interested when a new cigar does something different, when it brings something to the table that you're not expecting, either just for cigar smoking in general or cigars in general, or from a specific blender. And I tend to agree with you. This is a different cigar than what I had ever expected from Pepin. So it'll be a good one. I'll be looking forward to talking about it and smoking it next week.
Cool. Well, I guess we're ready to wrap this joker up, huh?
Yeah, I think so. This Oliva V Maduro has been a wonderful companion for the show. I've touched it up a couple times. Never gone out, but I think that my yapping has kind of led to a few areas of the wrapper that didn't continue on with the rest of the cigar. But all in all, I mean, I've waxed poetically about this. You've made me a believer, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I love these cigars. This one, I'm down to maybe an inch or an inch and a quarter left here, and it's starting to get a little bit ashy, a little harsh, but it's just like all the rest of them. It's been a great smoke throughout.
I definitely reiterate what you've said, that these cigars don't have a ton of flavor changes throughout their length, at least in the two samples I've smoked now. I think you're spot on with that, and it kind of has helped me today to enjoy this one specifically a little more without, I guess, expecting it to become something different as it continued on, as I did yesterday. Um, I'm enjoying it for what it is and concentrating on it, knowing that there really is a lot of depth of flavor to be had here. So if you see one of these in a shop, they're not going to break the bank. I think $8-9, something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
typical Tampa price is about seven something, right about $8 a stick. They come in
it's
boxes of 10. If you come across them, by all means, give them a try. Except
yeah.
don't buy all the ones in Tampa because that's what I rely on.
Well, yeah, I was regretting how I was talking so highly of this earlier because now maybe it's going to be harder for you to find them next year, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
I'll find them one way or another.
Well, we obviously want to direct everybody to cigarfederation.com. If you're watching this live or in the chat room right now on SigFed's website, we thank you for being there. Anybody else who hasn't been there, hasn't watched our show live, um, head on up to cigarfederation.com. A great community, a great guys put on by great people, and we're proud to be a part of it. So head on there, and obviously up to my good buddy Kip's website, thecigarme.com. I'll say it again. I have no tie to the website besides just having found it, have enjoyed it, and haven't gotten a friend out of it too. So head up there. Maybe you can learn a thing or two, or at least just enjoy Kip's way of telling you about the cigars he's reviewing. thecigarme.com.
Yep. As always, keep the emails coming. You can get Craig at thecigarme.com, and I'm Kip at thecigarme.com. You can get all of our other contact information there too, or just drop us a line. Any comments, compliments, complaints, whatever you got, just give us a yell.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody knows the Facebook handles: Craig Schneider, Kip Fisher, or you're the Cigar Me on Facebook, I believe.
On Facebook is just Cigar Me.
Pardon me, Cigar Me. Oh, I'm not saying Cigarmony anymore, but I'm not getting your Facebook handle right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, if you just go to the website, it's all on there with links. It'll just take you right to it.
And I don't know, have you gotten my stuff up there yet, my links yet? I don't recall seeing it.
Yeah, I think so. I created a page there across the top menu bar for Half-Ashed, and the contact information should be in there.
Perfect. Well, my Twitter account, I'm forcing myself to get heavy into Twitter, so I'm throwing out a number of tweets every day, a bunch of them the last couple days, actually. You'll get stuff on the Blackhawks. You'll get a lot of stuff on cigars, just random musings from a crazy man. So my Twitter handle is Craig S. Schneider, so look me up on that, too. Hopefully it'll be a fun way for us to communicate. So, well, I think that about wraps us up, my man.
Cool. Well, you want to send us packing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd appreciate the offer. I want to send this show out to my little boy, Luke. Luke had his first real trip to the ER today. Split open his eye. Doing what all little boys do, getting into trouble, climbing things, falling down. So the show goes out to the little man. Hopefully he has a full recovery and has a good story later on in life with the ladies as to why he's got a scar on his face. So everybody, thanks for listening. Really do appreciate it. Really do appreciate all the listeners who've been shooting us emails, talking to us. It's been fun for me, and I know Kip, to communicate with all of y'all, and really hope that you can keep it coming. And want to say a sincere thank you very much for being a part of this great time that we call Half-Ashed. So have yourself a great one, and good night, everybody.